My name is Bob Hathaway. I grew up here in Tahlequah.
And
Taught,
you were,
taught for a bit at OSU. And in those days, 1975, we had an election, and Ross Swimmer was the first elected chief. And they decided that they wanted to try to get all the Cherokees that they could back to help kind of get it off the ground.
right?
I came back as an employee of the land department
Okay.
and started a business that lasted about 11 years called Cherokee Gardens. We eventually employed about 400 people, 415 people, I think.
That's incredible.
So we taught people nursery production. And at one point, and I'll never forget that day, Ross came in and said, "You're not going to be involved in training. You're going to have to be a business." And I remember saying, "I don't know anything about business. I'm just a teacher." At any rate, during that 11-year period I was there, Julie Morris was a close friend of Wilma Mankiller's.
Okay.
And I had first met Wilma when Ross said that he wanted to start a nursery. And I said, "Well, I'm barely making minimum wage here, Ross. What are we going to do for money?" And he said, "Well, I just hired a grant writer from California. Sit down with her and she'll help you write a grant to get Cherokee Gardens started." And that's when I met Wilma Mankiller for the first time. A few years later, when Ross was running for a second term, Julie Morris came to me and said, "Ross wants you and I to go see if we can talk Wilma into running for deputy chief." Because at that time, Ross had agreed to become head of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. James Watt, the Secretary of Interior, had come to Tahlequah and convinced Ross to resign as chief and go to Washington. So whoever Ross picked as his deputy, and Perry Wheeler had been the deputy chief and had announced that he was going to run for chief. And I remember Julie and I talked to Wilma at the restaurant of the Cherokees after it closed. It took us about 2 hours. We finally convinced her to run for chief. That's kind of the early days.